Hi, this is Damien from AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can be simply understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. For me personally, I'm a value theorist, which I actually use that then to approach how I see atheism. So, and I'm here with a guest. Could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Hello, Damien and everyone. I'm Abhijit Naskar. I'm a neuroscientist. I write on issues of the mind and society, and my focus is on various discriminations, prejudices, and issues that actually impede in the progress of the society.
Sounds very interesting. So you have a lot of books, I remember, right? Could you go tell us a little about that?
Yes, I have written 33 books, and I'm working on my 34th.
Look at you. 34. Go ahead. So what is some of the general topics of these different books?
My books began with being on science, that is, science of the mind, neuroscience, various parts of it. I began with my focus being specifically on the neuropsychological roots of religion and spirituality and the sexual differences between female and male psychology. So eventually that evolved into more of a kind of my unique philosophy, and now all of it is combined together. So
can you go ahead and tell us what your unique philosophy is, since you brought it up, so we can hear what you believe?
I don't have any unique philosophies. I don't advocate for following any path, because all paths have their own disadvantages and advantages. So whatever suits people, and they have to take the good from all the philosophies, that is.
So that's your philosophy. Is that what you're saying? I'm just saying, your philosophy is, I'm just going to restate it for you. It sounds like, at least, unless I'm wrong, because I'm trying to figure out what you believe. In this talk, I want to talk with you about what we believe, about beliefs. And so I care a lot about justified true beliefs, but I also care about experiential, phenomenological beliefs, like how you experience the world, how your perception. And you're talking about your perception, or your perception of a good life, I'm assuming, because your philosophy then is pigeoning or pointing or progressing towards something else. The philosophy is, in a sense, the starting point. Your goal is a future thing. You're creating the philosophy with future. I would hope so. Unless you just randomly are coming up with a non-thinking philosophy. But I'm assuming that your philosophy is coming up with a belief in the goal of future goals. So you do have a philosophy, it sounds like. Your philosophy is that we should be, I guess, a free thinker, right? That would be, to quantify a name for what you're saying to your philosophy. The ability to have an open mind and learn from wherever truth can be found, which to me is also a seeker, or I would say a truth seeker, or as to me in my own terminology, I call it a sound thinker. A sound thinker is one who simply wants the truth and looks at all avenues to find it. Then accepts things only that have valid and reliable reason and evidence connected to them as what they consider true beliefs. To me, just as a little general thing. So that's what I'm trying to find out for you. So what would you say after I say that? What would you say? Because you had made this. I came up with my own unique philosophy. Then I asked you. Then you said I really don't have one. But I'm just saying you do have one. You don't, or at least as I perceive it. How does that feel with what you believe?
There comes the definition of the term philosophy again, because if we really go deep into the psychological roots of all those terms, philosophy, metaphysics, belief, opinions, all those things, we can find that they're basically one and the same thing. A kind of individual code that we follow in our individual life. And that can be termed in different ways. It can be called metaphysics, it can be called philosophy, school of thought, doesn't matter. Now, you said, what's my philosophy? First of all, I would say that I tell people not to follow any philosophy. Just take from everywhere, from wherever.
So then you agree that's a free thinker. You're saying to not be attached to something, which is to be free, because you're saying don't, but then you say to think, because you're not saying just free yourself of everything and do whatever you want. You know, you're not saying. Well, right. So I'm just saying. So you're saying free yourself from that and then think and then get what is true. It seems like, right?
Yes. Seeker, knower.
Yeah.
Someone who tries to understand, not conclude. The point is, for the first time in the history of life, the human species, only species, has developed the brain capacity to write the path of their own evolution. No other species is capable of doing that, to write the path. Nature chooses it for them. But humans, we finally have developed extraordinary brain capacity to create the path of evolution that we want to go on.
For some of us, that's blowing the world up, and for some of us, it's trying to help save the world from blowing up.
I think, yes, that's the point. If there were enough people trying to stop other people from blowing up with enough boldness and courage, there wouldn't be any blowing up going on in the world. So that's the problem, because people who are driven by orthodox beliefs, they are more driven, they are more sentimental, they are more wild and instinctual, run by their limbic brain. On the other hand, people who can really think, they are more engaged in criticizing all those people than actually restoring or empowering the kindness and humanity in people.
Well, I think one of the points is that they are focusing on I think we're both believing, just so you know. Everything in a sense is reducible to a belief, to me. But that's not what I'm trying to point to. I'm saying so what's the difference? The difference is they value belief itself. We value justification for beliefs. So I want a justification. I don't just want to believe. As long as it's a belief, I have it and it's a belief. Well, that doesn't make it good. That doesn't make it valuable. That doesn't make it beneficial.
For example, people have often asked me, do you believe in a God? I tell them I don't know.
Yeah. What's a God?
Because to me, God would be the source of everything, the entire universe, the entire creation and all that. That's my perception of the ultimate God, which is irrelevant to human existence because we are too puny. So we cannot know something like that. Physicists are working on finding out the origin of the universe and all that. They're working on it. So let them work on that. So I don't know, and I accept I don't know. That's the point. But people take the words of scriptures, various myths, as truths about God. They are believed to be the empirical truth. And that's where the problem rises, because one belief is at war with another belief of another people. People fighting against people.
Well, and I think that's why we need to have an ethics of belief. And I think that's something that takes a reasoner thinker approaching beliefs. Once again, like I said, the difference is they just love the beliefs. They just support belief. It doesn't matter in the sense, is it justified? Is it reasonable? I want to believe it, or it makes me feel good. They don't have an ethics of how they approach what I can be. In other words, like an interactional process of how they get to their epistemology, how they get to their theory of what their mind is doing.
Because, again, there are psychological reasons behind it. The point is, I cannot blame all of them for all those things.
Well, yeah, well, we can blame some people for some things positionally.
Yes,
but yes, I do agree that.
Of course. Not the basic religious people who are just happy with their beliefs, their religion, and they are not seeing other people from different religions as less human. So,
yeah, I think we talked about this before, that I really care about people being human. I'm an anarchist. I see the whole world as one people. There's no such thing as human race. I don't care about country. I don't care about religion, sexuality, gender. It's one people to me. We're the human race. I care about my fellow humans. So I agree that I think that for me personally, that is such an important thing. That the lack of seeing others as human is, to me, can give rise to sociopathic evil.
When we are talking about sociopathic evil, it becomes a neuropsychiatric condition. Because if we really talk about the people who are actually doing harm in the name of God, the Islamists and jihadis and the so-called, we can do another conversation on the term jihad, but that's a different matter. Let's just put it this way: holy war, war or battle in the name of religion.
Right.
So those were
which is not limited to, in a sense, to just Islam. The war in the name of religion, it definitely
any religion.
Like you said, Hindu, I think is starting to become more militant. I watched a show the other day about it. They were talking about Hindu nationalism connected to Hinduism. But look at Myanmar, where the Buddhist priests, Buddhists everywhere else are kind pretty much.
I actually wrote a book on Rowdy Buddha, on Buddhism. That is, I mentioned there that Buddhism has never tried to impose their religion on anybody else. But I think now I cannot stay true to that statement. And that's the point. Every single orthodoxy becomes harm to the society. They inflict harm to the society.
Which is why secularism, to me, is the only way of honoring the dignity of others. Even if you didn't like it, you should want it, because what it's saying is everyone's equal. That we're not going to judge anybody on religion preferences or whatever.
But the point is, when we are talking about, let's say, secularism, or when you fall in love, the front part of your brain, prefrontal cortex, it's involved in various kind of analytical thinking and rational thinking and decision making and all that.
Yeah.
When you fall in love, the prefrontal cortex of your brain turns a little bit inactive towards all the shortcomings of that person in front of you, because you're falling in love, and from that you may pass on your gene, a potential mate for reproduction. So that's why the brain turns off, because you need to sustain that relationship. You need to sustain your genes and pass it on forward. So the brain becomes cognitively blind towards the shortcomings of that person. The same happens when a person follows a certain ideology. They become cognitively blind towards the shortcomings of that ideology.
Right.
So rational arguments won't make any sense to them, and they would foster various kind of hatred and discrimination, prejudices against others.
Well, true, but I don't think it means we can't get to them with rationalism in a sense. Because I think that, yes, people have biases, but are you saying that nobody can be helped by counseling? Because that's clearly not the truth. We know that there is a high success. I'm not saying all counselors produce success, but there is a very high connected success to cognitive behavioral counseling. I mean, there is, even for narcissists. Group counseling with cognitive behavioral counseling can help them if they can see past themselves, which of course is a hard thing to do. But it's not.
That is the point. That is the point. Here we are not talking about basic, ordinary religious people. We're talking about orthodox, fundamentalists, those people who think of their religion to be everything and everything else.
Yeah, but I still don't see it as hopeless. I mean, because I think that it's I believe in people. I believe in their ability to reason. I don't accept that even an ideology. I think that it's our approach. Number one, I believe in people, so I don't go into it thinking I can't help this person change. Because I have counseling. I go in with a mindset that the exact opposite. That as you say, we're constantly changing. So I know that your belief can change, no matter how orthodox you are. My mom used to be so orthodox that when I watched a ColecoVision played a ColecoVision game, it's like one after Atari, and it was like Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. She got so mad that was played in the house because she was a Christian that she had it, destroyed, and then she walked around the house 7 times and put oil on the windows so the demons couldn't get in. I mean, very extreme. But now is a lot more mild. Before my mom found out I was atheist, probably would have punched me in the face and then disowned me. You know what I'm saying? Because she would certainly it would have been very negative. What I mean is when she was putting the oil on the windows, she was fanatically religious. Then as she got older, she changed. So it's not. And I'm not saying some people get older and they get worse. But I'm just saying that there is an ability. So I believe in the ability to change. So I don't ever accept. Because I've seen people that have mental problems that cannot reason correctly, and you can still kind of reason with them or get them to see some stuff, not everything.
That is the point. The mind is never rigid in anything, and
right? Because the brain plasticity, right?
Yes, neuroplasticity. But what I'm saying is that it is very unlikely that you can convert a fundamentalist into.
That's a better way to say it. Very unlikely, not impossible. Very yes, and I don't. And when I talk to because I've talked to extreme fundamentalists, because I do debates and stuff. I don't actually try to convert them. I simply try to present the truth and challenge their flawed beliefs. Because,
and what do you think they are thinking?
Well, because it doesn't matter what they think. Because I know that when I get you to see truth, when I get you to understand that my goal is not to convert you, but simply to help you reason better. It's hard I know your mind. See, the problem is we have this default that we are emotional. We also have this default where we like to reason. Even if it's not good reason, we like to reason. We like that. Not every single person, but so I know that there's a general thing that when we're presented with stuff, we want to figure it out. It's like why people like puzzles. We like figuring things out. So when I present you a truth and I present you a way to understand you've never had before, and then I just allow you and believe in you to do it yourself. I'm an anarchist. You do it to you. I'm not going to do it. I don't even try to. My goal is simply to challenge you because I know that a mind once presented with an idea, it's very hard to just get rid of it. Because it has to do with a gift. If I present things in a way that is a gift, I am sharing. I'm not trying to bring you down. Instead, I'm trying to bring you up. So even if, and I've had this happen too, they don't agree with anything I say, but they know my intent was kind. It makes a difference. And that's why I say we got to do kindness. Imagine, no one's going to accept the truth if I'm punching you in the face with it. I mean, it's just natural human reaction to fight or flight.
That is what many of the so-called atheists and freethinkers and rationalists, what they do is just keep punching other people in the face, criticizing, not providing something better, something more substantial. They just love to criticize.
I think that some things need to be criticized, but I am agreeing with you too. That shouldn't be my goal. I always tell people that if all I do is point fingers, have I not wasted time I could have done offering helping hands? I don't want this to be all I do is just point fingers at people. Just bring out issues. Not that that's not good. It is important. But that can't be everything. Because I agree with you. It is not just enough to say this is wrong. I need to help. This is what's right. And I'm not saying I try to do universal ethics. I don't say that this particular, thing you have to follow. I show you why it's the most reasonable thing for a flourishing humanity. Because that does have limits. That is objective. Because humans are social, emotional creatures that need bonding, and actually need each other to reach the greatest things, including just like the fact of the internet, that we can talk to each other. The fact of us being able to connect then gives more to the world in a positive way. It's very beneficial. So we see how it's also selfish, which most people. I always laugh when people say that they don't believe in ethics. Everyone believes in ethics. You want to be treated ethically. The issue is you don't want to have some accountability to your actions. But you have no problem requiring the rest of the world to treat you with ethics. Bullshit. There's not one person that I know that goes, yeah, I love people hitting me randomly. I love being asleep and I don't know if I'm going to be killed. Yeah. No one in a sense, so everyone wants everyone else to be ethical. I don't see any problem with that. It's the issue of then how my actions. But see, the moment that we can move out of ourselves and see that we want everyone else to be ethical, we should feel that internal guilt that I am part of everyone, thus I need to be one of these people that can be trusted as ethical. Because it comes down to trust. And I say, to me, often harm can be reducible to a violation of trust.
We are not just part of others, we are others.
Well, true.
We are our society. The human brain has a system called mirror neuron system, which enables us to empathize with others.
Correct.
When we see somebody in pain, we actually do feel pain in our brain. In our brain as in our mind. We do feel that pain in our mind, as if it's happening to us.
Right, and like I said, that's because of our phenomenology. We experience things emotionally.
Yes. So if we see it ourselves to somebody else happening, we actually experience it as if it's happening to us.
That's right.
So we have evolved this brain capacity to empathize with others. And then we have also developed various mechanisms for acting ethically, acting morally. But the point is, often we count something else. We see something else, a kind of scripture, a kind of divine realm, or kind of God, to be the source of our moral behavior or our ethical behavior. So then we try to abide by the ethics provided by those scriptures. And that's when, again, we start to see we want others to behave in that specific ethical spectrum. As is the thing that's happening with the Hindu nationalists. Now they're so much so that they're trying to harm the Muslims because of eating cow and killing cow and all that.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
So, exactly. They become so cognitively blind that to them, a cow is more important than human life. The point is, we are biological creatures, and biological creatures mean that we have to thrive on other creatures, and even for food and all that, and even for meat. The point is, being vegetarian is of course morally superior because we are not killing any other animal. But the point is, if we have been vegetarian from the very beginning, we wouldn't have developed the brain capacity to think morally or with all the rational thinking. So the very sense that you have that animals feel pain too, so we should not kill them, is a product of your ancestors eating those animals.
I agree.
So that is the point. It's a part of evolution. We have evolved and we cooked those animals.
Well, I think cooking, I just watched a program the other day on Anthropology, and it was talking about the importance of cooking food. In fact, they were saying that they've done a study in Germany of people that ate raw diets, non-cooked food, even meat, 50% less birth rate. So like you said, once again, if we didn't cook, because you said cook meat, if we didn't cook our food, we would have not been as productive as a species as we have also.
Because our brain became larger, the cerebral cortex, the outer side of the brain, outside the limbic system, became more complicated. The neurons became more, and they got more interconnected and complex. That's how we developed all those rational thinking and decision making and creativity and everything that defines us today as human beings, modern, advanced human beings. Now, of course, if we eventually develop, we are already trying to do that, scientists are doing that, artificial meat, then of course it's going to be morally superior because they are not killing, we will not need to kill animals.
Oh, and I'm not for veganism or vegetarianism, but I do agree. If we can make meat in the lab, I think that would be, for me personally, I'm not saying everyone else be accountable, that would be an ethical thing that I would try to do. I would try to start doing that more, because I don't like the fact that animals are killed. It doesn't please me at all.
That is the point. But when people turn that, again, animal rights, turn that into an ideology, then they start fostering hatred against their own kind, people, for eating animals.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wouldn't hate other people from eating animals. I'm just saying, for me personally, if I could do more of my stuff, if they made it just taste just as good or whatever, I would, whatever.
Yes, actually, scientists are already doing that. And
I know they are. And I'm all for that.
Yes, that would be morally superior. Of course, it's morally inferior to kill animals, but we do need to kill animals for food, for our brain, for our nutrition. If the entire species stops eating meat, in some time, our various cognitive capacities would eventually decline because of all the nutrition that we receive from cooked meat. And we develop those capacities from cooking meat. Before that, we didn't have our brain so much larger.
Right, that's what I'm saying is I think that they were talking about how, because about 300,000 years ago is when I believe that really pre-Antism just takes off. The pre-humans start doing stuff. Homo nati at 250 starts as cemeteries, or like putting, their people in a cave. Then you have Neanderthals almost 250 also, or 230. I think it's 230. I think it is, that they start burying. They're the first burial, I believe. And then, you also have 300-year-old wolf tooth pendant. 300,000 years old. In Austria. So, and then by 300,000, our faces had already turned more human-like, not flat, which is interesting. I saw a thing too on Anthropology. They talked about how we actually have a young chimpanzee face. The child has a face like ours. It's flat. It's the adult that the face then protrudes out. I thought that was really interesting. I never thought about that before. But so I think that we forget how evolved we are, and how that.
And just imagine there are people who actually still believe that the Earth is 5,000 years old.
I know, that's hilarious.
How much blind do you need to be in order to not see the evidence about the age of Earth, about the age of life on Earth, and all that? So that's where cognitive blindness comes in order to defend someone's belief, because that belief is serving as a kind of self-preservation mechanism in that person's life. If we can, instead of criticizing people, if we can, people's beliefs and all that, if we can improve their living conditions, if we can improve their entire existence as human beings, then eventually we would be able to live in a society where we will not need any kind of organized religion whatsoever. Because today, in many cases, those organized religions just serve as a kind of bedrock of a kind of comfort, peace, solace.
And I think that it also, in some areas, unfortunately, that it's used in a good way. The fact that it promotes people to want to help the poor or whatever. But I still think that a lot of those people would help the poor if they didn't believe. I've helped the poor. I've gone down to Mexico to help as an atheist.
That is the point. The compassion does not come from the religion.
I agree.
The compassion comes from the person, but the person doesn't know that. The person thinks that the compassion is coming from their Messiah, their God, their scripture, or whatever. But it is actually coming from themselves. But does it really matter as long as the compassion is coming towards people from all the religions and all that? So it's really the kindness.
Because I don't think the compassion comes from any of the religions in a sense, because they're written by people, and it was really people that were having these feelings or having these ideas. So
yes, of course, all those scriptures written by people. That's why they have good elements as well as bad elements, because people have good elements and bad elements.
Yeah, true. But that's why I think that, in a sense, we, like you were saying, we don't. I don't believe that we, in a sense, choose our beliefs. Beliefs, in a sense, are like our conclusion, like you talked about. So it doesn't mean we got to it by rational means. Sometimes we just get a conclusion that this is what it is, and we just conclude that must be true. So, but we didn't actually have any process that's rational to get there. We just assumed, in a sense.
In most cases, we don't choose beliefs. Beliefs choose us. Well,
I think that we're presented with stuff, and then we accept it. But so what I'm saying is, so I don't totally think though that it's some kind of fixed thing though. It's not like that just because I get in other words, if a woman walks by, and I'm attracted to her and I feel a sexual response, doesn't mean I have to act on it. Doesn't mean I have to tell her.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean you know what I'm saying? So I think that just because, once again, like I was saying, I try not to believe just everything I think. Everything that my mind is presented with, I just go, I just believe everything, No. So I think to me, one of the things I do as a methodological rationalist is I use belief etiquette. In other words, even though I will maybe get some beliefs to go through, and I still test them. Because see, to me, what it is, belief etiquette, what I'm talking about, is that reasoned belief acquisitions. In other words, I try to get things or allow things in that are reasoned, just to begin with. If it's not reasonable, if it's not presented in a way that can attach to reason, it shouldn't get in. And if it does, I need to immediately get it back out. Whoa, that's that stuff, in a sense. And then to me, that goes back to good belief maintenance. There's three things to me. So good belief maintenance to me is that things are going to get through. We're a flawed system. We're like this humongous, strainer. We get out the noodles, but all the water goes through, or whatever. So in a sense, or steam can go through, whatever. So the point is that a lot gets through. We get a shitload of beliefs that are ridiculous, we should not have, and it's the awareness that happens. It's the willingness to evaluate it. And that's what I'm talking about. Belief maintenance. It's a willingness to, even if I've accepted something for 30 years, if I'm presented with a new understanding that makes that not reasonable, then I need to be willing to let it go. And that goes to me about honest belief relinquishment. That there needs to be a desire in us, not just a willingness to me, but this refers to an actual desire for truth, so pure that when we find non-truth, that we can't wait to get rid of it. Man, I'm so happy to lose a flawed belief. In other words, realizing that it is this, to me, belief etiquette, this attitude about thinking. It's this sound value judgment of things that I think aids in the acquisition of truth.
Okay, let's wrap it up in a few minutes.
Sure.
That is, the fundamental thing here is the awareness. And there is a battle between whether to let go or not to let go of our beliefs, because they have been so close to us.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we may be thinking rationally, but sometimes the limbic system, the limbic response is so strong that even though we are aware that this is wrong, we are not willing to let go of those beliefs because they have been with us too long. But here, they just need to realize the simple fact, because that if we don't let those beliefs go, orthodoxy, fundamentalist beliefs, whatever, If we don't let them go, then they are going to ruin the relationship among humans as one humanity. Because today all the chaos and conflicts are not really chaos and conflicts between humans, they're actually chaos and conflicts among beliefs. And those beliefs can rise from any field. Doesn't have to be necessarily in religion. It can come from any field.
Well, so, first off, like I said, to me, everything in a sense is reducible to belief. And so, yeah, of course we get all kinds of groups of beliefs, is what you're talking about. Because generally, like when you say belief in religion, it's not belief in one thing. It's a group of things. It's like a whole cultural phenomenon you're talking about.
Yes. So we just need to be aware. First, awareness, then the willingness and courage to actually step forward into the new world, into, we can call it freedom, because we are trying to be free, or we are actually beginning to become human beings. Free thinking, not as in all those rationalism. Again, we can go deeper into that in the form of criticizing and everything, but in the form of investigating everything and trying to understand the things as they are, not the way we want them to be, based on our ancestral beliefs.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's intellectual honesty. Going back to me, what I say about belief etiquette or the ethics of belief. It's realizing that if I'm an honest, what I do differently. I think when I talk to people, I try to require them to be a rationalist. I require them to be an honest thinker. And when you do that, beliefs then that are not justified lose their credibility, even in your eyes, not just mine. And like I said, that's my goal, is not to convert someone, but to allow them the ability to see things, in a sense, in a critical thinking way. In their mind.
We have been converting each other for a long time, I think, and now is the time that we stop converting and start becoming one with other people as human beings.
Well, I'm totally a humanist and about humanity. I think that's the only way. We rise by helping each other. We have to work together. Well, I thank you for your time. It's been great. All right.
It's a pleasure.